It's been nonstop harassment and vulgar threats, calling my life an abomination, saying I'm a vile degenerate, and attacking and insulting my partner of 8 years and attacking my family. The insiders in Virginia politics made a big miscalculation if they thought that I would bow down to anyone or run away scared. I'm a conservative Trump supporter, and I'm gay, and everybody knows it because I've told you in person and in the media for decades.
You just heard from John Reid, an openly gay Republican candidate for lieutenant governor in the state of Virginia, who recently became the GOP's presumptive nominee after his main primary opponent dropped out of the race due to health reasons. So if he defeats the Democrat in June, he will be the second in command to Virginia's Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. The problem, however, is that Glenn Youngkin does not want this guy to be the lieutenant governor. In fact, he actually called on him to drop out of the race, even though that would give the Democrats a massive advantage in the election. Now, to give you some additional context, John is a Republican candidate who is deeply conservative. He is against so-called leftist indoctrination in education. He is pro-Confederate statutes. He's anti-immigration. He hates identity politics, loves the police. He's pro-personal freedom, of course, since he's gay, but anti-personal freedom when it comes to women having abortions. He's anti-trans, anti-DEI and CRT, and he thinks that religious institutions should be able to discriminate against LGBTQ plus people. So for all intents and purposes, he's an average far-right Republican lunatic. In fact, he's arguably to the right of Glenn Youngkin. The question is, why would the Republican governor want John to drop out of the race, knowing that that risks handing this election to a Democrat? Take a wild guess. Why would Glenn Youngkin want this? See, I don't think it has anything to do with the sexuality. I mean, Republicans have always been so open and welcoming to LGBTQ plus people, so it's hard to believe that they would oppose someone simply because of their sexuality. But as hard as it is to believe, John actually thinks that it might be because of homophobia. I don't know, John, you might be a little bit off base there, but he's going to share his reasoning as to why he thinks this is the case, and he's going to explain that there's been multiple attempts to blackmail him to get him to drop out. And here's the first attempt that he explains, followed by his response.
I want you to send the kids out of the room because I'm mad as hell, and I want to tell you why. 2 weeks ago, I got a late night phone call from a local religious activist and two people I've known for several years who said that there were photos that would destroy my life and I would never work in all of America again. And that it's been my best interest to drop out of the race for lieutenant governor. I asked for evidence, and the next day I was shown 3 pictures of me at a drag show in downtown Richmond.
I'm sorry, but this is genuinely one of the most hilarious attempts at blackmail I've ever seen. They're coming to a gay guy and they're like, well, you know, we have these incriminating photos of you engaging in homosexuality. Here's one of you smiling with drag queens, and here's another of you holding a man's hand. Yeah, you think this is a game? You think we're playing around? Here's a photo of you standing at an altar wearing a tuxedo, kissing a man on the mouth. We're not playing, buddy. We mean business. All this can go away if you drop out right now. He's already gay. He already is out of the closet. You can't really out an out gay man. He's immune from this attack. So that, of course, didn't really work, and he didn't drop out. But after that, once his opponent dropped out of the race and he became the presumptive nominee at that point, he explains things got way, way worse. And they played the big cards that they had against him, supposedly.
Then Monday, my opponent dropped out after his debilitating heart issue, and suddenly the threats and public attacks began again. Demands that I drop out because supposedly Christian voters would never support me, and it was inevitable that I would destroy the ticket and destroy Virginia. I told everyone who called that I did not accept that analysis and would not decline the nomination that I've worked for so many months to secure. It's been nonstop harassment and vulgar threats. What's happened today was my worst fear, a total fabricated internet lie, so basic that a middle schooler could have constructed it. It's predictable. But what I didn't expect was the governor I have always supported to call and demand my resignation without even showing me the supposed evidence or offering me a chance to respond. I did not accept that, and I deeply resent it. I demanded to see the evidence, and someone created a social media account with my Instagram name, a name which I've had for years, but this fake account reposted nude pictures of other people, models and porn models. Now I can tell you that's not my account, and anyone on the internet can open accounts with the same or similar names as other people.
So let's back up. Once he became the presumptive nominee for GOP lieutenant governor, the calls for him to drop out exponentially ramped up to the point where the governor himself asked him to drop out. And the straw that supposedly broke the camel's back for Glenn Youngkin was old pictures of naked male models that he allegedly reposted on his Tumblr account. Okay. Let me put this into perspective for you. Notoriously homophobic conservative commentator and pastor Jesse Lee Peterson hearted a video on his public Twitter account of two men eating each other's asses. And after he was presumably done jacking off, he liked a tweet from Trump to top it all off. And let's just say that he's still hosting Bible Thumper Thursdays after doing that. See, we're in the Trump era now. This is what the people who are trying to get him to drop out help to usher in, where scandals aren't really scandalous anymore and you could just wait out the clock and they go away eventually. So if a straight man like Jesse Lee Peterson can weather the ass-eating storm, suffice to say an openly gay man can probably still have a career after allegedly reposting nude models to his Tumblr account, especially if they're useful to the broader MAGA movement. Like, it's not going to be peachy keen for him since he's gay and they do hate gay people, but some conservatives will at least tolerate him so long as he plays his part as the Dave Rubin of Virginia. But as you saw, John denies that that account was his, and I kind of believe him, honestly, since he goes on to share way too much information in the next part of this video.
I was on again, off again, single and dating for many years before I met my partner over 8 years ago. Am I really expected to answer every twisted, intrusive question about my previous relationships, every person I ever had sex with, every dating app I was ever on? Must I share my gay Tinder profile, every profile picture on the internet, the 78,000 photos on Facebook, every late night text? Is anyone at the Richmond State Capitol or in DC planning on doing the same? It's not my place to judge others, so I won't. But I haven't publicly performed or publicly posted anything pornographic. Have I seen porn? Yes. Have I had one-night stands? Yes. Are my exes all still in love with me? No. What more can I possibly tell you?
Nothing. Holy shit, John, just shut the fuck up. Remember, they'll tolerate you for being gay insofar as they don't have to think about the icky things that you do in the bedroom. So don't volunteer this information if you don't have to. We get the point. But he goes on to make a point about how it's conspicuous that out of all the candidates, he's the only one that's being singled out for his private life. And he thinks it's because of his sexuality. Yeah, maybe that's a factor, John, you think? But it's not just that, because he also thinks he's being singled out because he's taking on the rhino establishment, and they want to take him down because he's a strong conservative. Let's hear him out.
Let's be honest. It's because I'm openly gay, and I have never bowed down to the establishment, and I will not. Last year, somebody posted a vile poster of me hundreds of times on Facebook, calling me, and this is awful, a Trump-tard Republican who likes little boys. I had to fight to get that removed.
Whew. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, the homophobes were kind of cooking with that one. but if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably less about him being a threat to the establishment and more about him being gay. That's just my guess. You know, this is conjecture, but I think that him being gay might have more to do with the situation. But, you know, since that video was posted, Reid's attorney actually sent a cease and desist to the executive director of Glenn Youngkin's Spirit of Virginia super PAC that is apparently behind all of this. And this is according to a local CBS affiliate. But in response to the allegations that this was defamation as well as homophobia, Glenn Youngkin decided to chime in when he was asked about it. And he said, actually, it's not about any of that. And his defense, I've got to say, is rich with irony. Let's watch.
One of the reasons why I called John last Friday morning was because these kinds of situations where there is just a historical recognition that social media and explicit social media content like this is a distraction. It's a distraction for campaigns, and it's distraction from people paying attention to the most important issues. And here we are today talking about fentanyl and saving lives, and the distraction is present. And that's why I called him on Friday morning, and that's why he and I had a very serious personal conversation. And the decision is John's and up to John. But that's why I called him, and that's what I wanted him to understand, is that at a time when we need to be speaking about really important topics, it's a distraction, and I don't think that's the best way for us to get a message out to Virginians.
That's hilarious to me. See, the Republican Party, I'll repeat, the Republican Party doesn't want to get too bogged down by distractions. They'd rather talk about the real issues affecting Americans, like the woke mind virus and how Democrats are controlling the weather, or how they're shooting hurricane guns at red states. And just to remind you, Glenn Youngkin endorsed Donald Trump in this last election, who on the campaign trail literally talked about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis and was pantomiming dick sucking on a stage. No homo, of course. But the party wants to stay focused on the substance, and they can't support somebody like John Reid because he allegedly reposted pictures of naked men on Tumblr, and that's just going to be too much of a distraction for them, the Republican Party. Love that he has this defense. Now, on April 27th, 2 days after John Reid posted the first video that we watched, he posted a follow-up claiming that he was told that the attacks were going to continue and they would not cease until he drops out of the race, and he claims that these attacks are coming directly from Glenn Youngkin's team.
I had certainly hoped that we could put the bigotry and ugliness of last week behind us and unify our Republican ticket this year. But shockingly, once again, representatives of my campaign have been told by the leader of Governor Youngkin's political organization that the attacks on me will continue unless I drop out of the race for lieutenant governor. What colossal arrogance and abuse to a loyal fellow Republican, and like it or not, the declared legal nominee of our party, just like what we saw against President Trump over the last 8 years. My representatives were shown the same explicit photographs of other people that I've got nothing to do with that I was shown last week. And they were told that if I dropped out of the race, they would purchase the opposition research and the lies and threats against me would suddenly stop. This is extortion, and it is illegal in Virginia. And I am more outraged now. I have engaged legal counsel to pursue all options against these people. I am sickened and outraged at the weeks of veiled accusations and attacks on my family. And I'm not going to continue to answer a never-ending parade of questions and false accusations from people who we now know are solely motivated to stage a coup against a gay man whom they didn't want to be their nominee, but didn't have the guts to run against. It's unfair. No one else has to deal with this type of speculation and hyper scrutiny of their past before they were married or engaged, and I won't either.
It's unfair, sure, but I mean, what do you want me to tell you? You're crying about leopards eating your face after you voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. You're like this chicken who walked into KFC. I mean, when you lie with pigs, expect to get muddy. And if you couldn't already tell, I don't have that much sympathy for John, because the way that he's being treated is the same exact way that he thinks it's okay to treat trans people and immigrants and people of color. So we call that a taste of your own medicine, John. So fuck you, cry harder. I don't feel bad for you, because when you join a party that's entire existence is premised on making marginalized people's lives worse, I mean, that's what you signed up for, man. But regardless of what Youngkin says, there's no denying that this is about his homosexuality. Because imagine if this were a straight person and they reposted a photograph of a naked woman. Do you think that that would warrant that person's resignation? Do you think any Republican would call on that person to resign? We know that that's not the answer, because there's a lot of things that Glenn Youngkin gave a pass to with regard to Donald Trump: rape, corruption, insurrection. So obviously, John's sexuality has not just a little bit to do with it, but everything to do with it. But Glenn Youngkin's call for him to resign, as well as his candidacy in general, has actually split the Virginia Republican Party. As LGBTQ Nation reports, the Virginia Christian Alliance has called Reid's homosexuality disqualifying, and the Conservative Family Foundation has called for Reid to step aside. A Wednesday event featuring all statewide Republican nominees was canceled, the Virginia Scope reported. Phil Kazmierczak, a member of Youngkin's LGBTQ+ advisory board, resigned from his position over the weekend. In his resignation letter, he said that he was deeply shocked that Youngkin would involve himself in a diabolical attack of this nature. He's shocked that a Republican was homophobic. Now, The Hill explains other Virginia Republicans have flocked to Reid's defense, calling Youngkin's move an unforced error. The growing controversy is raising questions about Republicans' path forward ahead of November's election and Youngkin's political future. A number of Republicans have laid blame on Youngkin's Spirit of Virginia PAC and his team for what they say was bad guidance. So on one side, you seemingly have evangelicals and establishment Republicans worried about isolating them by not condemning this homosexual candidate because he's gay. And on the other side, you have some GOP strategists as well as Trump supporters who seemingly support him despite his homosexuality because, like them, he's also a Trump dick rider. Again, no homo. And when you look at the reaction to this story on social media, I was actually pretty surprised to see how many Republicans were standing by him, even on a Nazi platform like Twitter. I mean, of course, there were still people in his replies calling him the F-slur, obviously, but nonetheless, he still had a surprising amount of support. For example, you have people congratulating Laura Loomer for being right about Youngkin being a rhino, people telling him that they're praying for him, others asking Megyn Kelly to expose Youngkin for this, others echoing Trump's fight, fight, fight rhetoric. Some were even apologizing to him for having to deal with this. Now, if you go any deeper into his replies, you might see some unkind words, but to his credit, it seems like he's been able to blend in enough with Trump supporters to win their conditional support. He's singing the greatest hits, he's using the talking points about the rhinos, and it's working. So at this point, it doesn't seem like he's planning on resigning. And even if he were to, Glenn Youngkin doesn't have an alternative to take his place, so he's kind of stuck with him. Best case scenario in my mind is that he loses, then Republicans in the state blame Youngkin for Democrats' victory, which divides the party even further and ultimately paves the way for a Democratic takeover in November when they hold their gubernatorial election. But, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen. Either way, this is a very messy story, but I'll end by saying, good luck, John. You're going to need it.
Mom, I'm gay. Gays. Gays. Mom, I'm transgender.